I'm going to open the meeting of the Blackstone-Millville Regional School District School Committee for Thursday, December 10th. If we could rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, introduction of members.
Griffin Riley, student representative.
John Wozniak, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Wendy Greenstein, Blackstone.
Erin Vanaco, Millville.
Dave Thompson, Assistant Superintendent.
James Eggert, outside financial consultant.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Georgette Jarrett, Blackstone. Eric Eisner, student representative.
Thank you. And what do we need? Yeah, so we're going to move our agenda and we're going to go right down to the elementary music department because we can tell that you're ready to go. So where is Miss Benson? We're ready for you. I was told that you're going to be this way facing us because the camera is here and he has extra microphones here for you. Do we have enough room? Do you need to move the table? Okay.
Do you want me to move the table forward?
That's what was talked about by him.
Oh. Oh my God. I don't think I missed it, but if I did, just let me know.
So Lauren, I'm actually just going to introduce them. I should have said that. So we have here our third graders from Blackstone and Millville, and they're going to sing us how many Christmas songs?
3, we're doing
3 Christmas songs.
Ooh.
If any parents do want pictures, you can come back. That's fine.
And we can turn around at the end so everybody can, perfect.
The camera's facing that way, so if you do come over here.
You ready?
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha, ha, ha! Bells on bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
I'm sure I think everybody does.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Great job.
Keep going.
So I'm going.
This is subject to liberal interpretation.
Oh, there we go.
Thanks.
I got a picture for you. I'll send it to Lisa.
All right, moving on, we're going to go to our report of the student representatives.
All right. Well, good evening. So, winter sports recently started up. They're in full swing now. There were tryouts the day after Thanksgiving break, and that following week. Now, all the teams, I believe, are settled in, and user fees are actually beginning to be collected. And I believe the first league basketball games are tomorrow night, and I believe they're both home games, or the boys is a home game. I know the girls had a scrimmage, and they beat Bellingham last night as well. After that, progress reports are coming up soon, which is actually kind of cool because this year we've gone completely digital, so saving that paper, saving the environment, you know. And those can be accessed through the X2 portal. And then just an update from the senior class. Our Yankee Candle fundraiser was a success. We've made a little bit over $1,000 on that, and purchases can still be made online. And then also senior superlatives came out. I think there were something like 42 or 43 superlatives total, with a male and a female for each category. So pictures were being taken yesterday and today, and those went very smoothly.
In the National Honor Society, always around the holiday season, for those in need, we've collected hats and mittens, and we keep them in a box at the food pantry for anyone to be able to take, especially for those in need in our community. The winter can be rough months. But this year we decided to do something a little further, because one more sad fact is that socks are the most requested item by the homeless most often, and they're one of the least donated. So we've extended our collection to hats, mittens, scarves, and socks, and those will be collected through Friday, December 18th at Blackstone Millville. And for students who are doing drop-offs, it'll be in Ms. McLean's room, and those will be put to the food pantry where anybody in need will be able to take them. It's a really good way to get involved in the community and do some good. We also have our Holiday Happenings Committee, which just kind of runs the fun winter things we do. So we have some planned operations that are being decided, you know, maybe some visits to locations, maybe some singing. So that's a good way to bring joy as well as helping. Student council?
So yeah, just a quick update from the student council. As far as the region goes, some of our council members are attending a Sky Zone event, which is kind of just a regional bonding event. And then probably our biggest event of the year is Pep Rally. We're in full swing for Pep Rally right now. All the classes and the staff as well are planning their lip syncs. The classes are planning their banners, getting ready for the mini games, everything. That's the last day of school in 2015. I believe it's December 23rd this year. It's the half day. And that's always a grand old time.
Is there a theme?
Theme this year is music genres.
Oh.
So it's going to be an interesting year.
Seniors have hip-hop, juniors have rock, sophomores have electronic dance music, and
Yep.
freshmen have country.
Oh.
Were you able to choose, or was it?
Yeah, you were able.
Oh,
Seniors go first. And then it goes down the
And they
line.
chose hip hop?
We chose hip hop. Yes, we did. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited to see how all the banners come out. They're always great every year. Brings all the artists out, and then the lip sync as well. And then back to Griffin for an update on band.
Yeah. So as we checked in last time, band coming hot off their nationals is hoping to win some more medals with our winter percussion and guard programs just starting, and those are in full swing, actually going on right now. Winter percussion, and they're really getting involved. We're really bringing it this year. A lot of hype came from winning finals for marching band, and we're just really looking to have a nice year. Districts and All Districts band was actually a little while ago, but the people who got in have been announced. And Andrew Jalbert has been announced as a principal chair for saxophone, tenor saxophone, and he also got an all-state recommendation, so that's a big deal. And Nicholas Schleier, also on trumpet, got an all-state recommendation, as well as Matt Maley, who made districts on trombone. And jazz band has also started. We have 2 jazz bands. One is more recreational. The other is a competition jazz band, which their first show, I believe, is in Stadium Theater, and that will be in February. And Woodwind Choir and Brass Choir have both started, and those play events and venues, and it's a really nice chamber from our school. In colleges, there's actually financial aid night going on right now for the seniors at our high school. College is scary, and even scarier is paying for it. But it's a really nice event we run at the high school with the guidance counselors and just people coming and just really explaining what to do, FAFSA, etc. And as always, our list of accepted seniors on the board in the hallway can be viewed, and that's growing every day with people accepted all over the country and to all different kinds of schools. The GSA at the high school is running a You're Beautiful fundraiser, where for 25 cents, You're Beautiful stickers can be purchased and given to people to make them feel special, and those also come with lollipops. For anyone interested, those are being sold at lunches. And lastly, the Drama Club, which is really nice because that was a student-started organization. We've seen it really get stronger and stronger every year. One of the real things to be proud of at BMR, that students undertook that and with help from faculty really have grown this program so much. The production of Oliver Twist will be this Friday and this Saturday. If you'd like to attend, it's a report at 6:30 and the show will start at 7. The show is featuring Jenna Gauthier as Oliver Twist. And they're really working hard this week to get it together. They've been working the whole fall, but they practice every day this week in what's known as Tech Week for drama clubs, and they practice right after school late into the night, really working hard to perfect everything for their performances. So a lot of props goes out to them. They're working really hard.
That is it for tonight.
Okay. You mentioned the college acceptance video that's running. I heard there might be a new one up by tomorrow.
Yes.
Do you have any news for us?
At the start of this meeting, I was made aware that I've been accepted to Duke University for the class of 2020.
You got your email?
Great. Good job. Do you have choices?
That's number 1.
That's the number one, right?
That's it, you're done?
I did early decision, so I'm committed.
Wonderful. And
Duke
what
2020.
major are you?
I'm studying economics there.
Congratulations.
Well, that is fantastic. Great news.
Should have worn a Duke
A
blue
Duke.
shirt.
Do you have any?
You're off a few shades.
Yeah.
At the time, we could have went down and got you one. We expect to see one next time. Very good.
Thank you
We're
very much,
proud of
guys.
you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Eric, do you have any college news for us?
Only heard back from one place so far. I didn't apply any early decision. Just
Okay.
UMass Lowell. I actually got the email
Very
before I left here.
So it's more emails now? There's no like big packets of
I
stuff?
know. You
The
don't wait for the
packets come
mail.
in the
That's
mail.
actually,
I know.
I remember looking in the light,
What?
trying to
Is it
read
thick? Is it thin?
Yeah.
Email. But Duke does everybody at once, right? Email everybody at once.
For the early decision
Yeah.
applicants, yeah. 7 p.m., but it came out like 6:54, so they gave me a little.
There you go.
you're celebrating
bonus.
here.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
No
That was
problem.
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much.
All right, so moving on, we have consent agenda A, warrants, use of facilities, field trip requests, and our minutes. I honestly, could you let us know what we have?
A theater trip, NHS, to Lincoln, Rhode Island. I don't know where it says what it's for. It says theater trip. Another trip for Alice in Wonderland, the Stadium Theater.
It's lucky, it's a novel.
Oh.
Should be a novel.
And I think those are the only two. It's only two.
Are there any use of facility requests?
No, there weren't?
None.
Oh, I thought there were.
No use.
Okay.
So, okay.
And our minutes were sent to us for November 12th. Do I have a motion for the,
To approve consent agenda A.
motion made by Jane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Wendy. And any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. And, school committee, we have the Millville Elementary Playground Committee.
Valerie Haggerty, Chairman of the MES, the Millville Elementary School Playground Committee. I'm here tonight to ask your consideration of a new MES playground agreement. I understand that you've been provided a copy in your agenda.
Yes, we do have one. And just to clarify, several members were present at the selectmen's meeting that you presented at. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that the superintendent and several members did hear this presentation already.
We're going. Would anybody like a hard copy of any of the documents? Because I have extra hard copies here, if somebody wants a hard copy.
Is that what was,
You
we
have
have it,
one?
right?
It's four
It's in the
pages.
packet if
Okay.
it got
It is
printed.
in
I have it
the
back.
What's his draft on it?
So, your attorney, Mr. Gould, is it? Okay, he and town council attorney went back and forth regarding the agreement that you sent over to the Board of Selectmen for Millville. And we ended up with draft number 3. I'm not quite sure which draft was on your agenda, but it went up to draft number 3. And we went ahead and we reviewed this agreement, and I tried to meet with the Parks and Recs because it was always our intention that Parks and Recs would take over the maintenance of the playground after it was built, and that we would supply them with a dollar amount to help offset the costs associated with that. Parks and Recs met with Dr. Hahi and also with Superintendent Himmelberger and informed them that because they have no staff, they felt that they couldn't handle that type of situation. So feeling like I went back to the drawing board, I decided, our committee looked at that agreement and said, we really can't go forward with that agreement. So by that time, I had already been looking at the town lease of the land for the school with Millville and the regional school district agreement, and I said, these two documents pave a way to have an agreement, because in the lease, I was really looking at paragraph 7, and it says the leasee, which is the school district, shall have the right during the term of the lease and any extension thereof to construct and equip additions to any of the school buildings presently or hereinafter located on the leased premises, and to construct and equip school buildings to replace any of the school buildings presently or hereinafter located on the leased premises, as if it were the owner hereof, provided, however, that in each instance, the leasee shall first have obtained the written consent of the lesser selectmen. So basically, you just have to get written consent from the Millville Board of Selectmen to build a playground. So then I looked at the regional school district agreement, and there were, in paragraph, it's on page 7, it's section 4, basically paragraphs A through C, it explains what capital costs and operating costs are.
I'm sorry, you're in the regional agreement?
Yep, that's regional agreement, page 7. And section 4 explains the capital costs and the operating costs. And then flipping back, I'll give you a minute if you want to look at it.
Valerie, did you say you have another copy of this with you?
Yes, which
Can I
one do you
see
need?
that? The one you're referring to now,
Okay.
with regard to the definition of capital and,
Thank you, I have it.
Thank you.
I'll take one.
Do you, the lease, you're gonna need the lease.
what paragraph are you in?
Page 7, section 4, paragraphs A, B, and C.
Oh. Section 4 is the whole thing.
Kind of, okay. So I looked at that paragraph, and then flipping back actually to the lease on page 5, paragraph 10, it says the words usual or ordinary repair and maintenance expenditures set forth in subsection 4C of the agreement, referring back to the regional school district agreement, shall be construed to mean expenditures, the cost or estimated cost of which is less than $20,000. So I went ahead and I drafted the MES playground agreement, and I tried to really follow the outline from these two agreements. So
So is this the one that was presented to the selectmen?
this is the one that was presented to the selectmen. They went ahead and they sent it off to their town council to look at it. And on December 7th, the executive secretary, Ms. Kaufman, reported back that they heard back from the attorney and that they have now, and I don't know if you've received it, they would like to have a group meeting to go over this agreement, to answer any type of questions that are still out there, and to consider it. They were going to send over an invitation to come to one of their meetings to discuss this agreement.
Okay. We have not received that yet.
Okay.
But as of right now, they have the same agreement in their hand. Their attorney has the same agreement.
Yes.
And now we all have.
Yes. And I was hoping that, so that way we can go forward with maybe a group meeting between your board and their board and the MES playground agreement, to hopefully have your attorney look at it, advise you on it, and hopefully everybody can meet and say, yes, this is the agreement we'd like to move
And basically what
forward.
you're stating from the research you've done is that we would need to
Upkeep it for
let
under
Millville know that we're
$20,000.
putting a playground in,
Yes,
and because that's the way the,
yes. And I think that this written agreement that I had drafted could operate as that. And it spells out in this agreement a little bit more information that clarifies
do you want
things
to
that
point
weren't.
those pieces out to us?
Sure.
Um,
Basically, in paragraph 2, the design and construction, basically, the town shall be solely responsible for all the costs associated with and related to the design and construction of the playground, and obtain any required permits. I put in there also that the district would furnish any information or documents that may be necessary to obtain those permits. The town is going to notify the district in writing when the necessary funds have been donated in order to build the playground, because the town won't let the playground be built until the funds have been fully donated. Okay. The estimated cost that we're looking at is $220,000. And the reason why the town has to pay for, the way that the lease in the regional agreement, over $20,000 is considered a capital cost. So this would be considered a capital
So we're
cost.
essentially asking the town to put a playground on our
Yes,
property at
yes,
their expense.
yes.
Okay. Because it's over $20,000.
Right. If it was under 20,000, you wouldn't have to worry about that. You would just need to get permission. At least that's my take of these agreements. Your attorney might say something different. Everybody interprets documents differently. We put in there that we would like to, that you would authorize the town to use a community build if the town chooses to install the playground equipment. That
What
does-
number is that?
That is on paragraph 5, page 2. And we also put in there because Ms. Reggio had a concern, we put in there in that paragraph, at least one of the pieces of playground equipment shall be handicap accessible and/or comply with the state handicap accessibility laws. In paragraph 6, I put in there and I defined what, that the district shall be responsible for the usual and ordinary repair and maintenance expenditures for the playground. The words capital, and the town shall be responsible for the capital costs of the playground. And then I defined capital costs, what the capital costs mean. It shall mean the cost or estimated cost of which is more than $20,000. And usual and ordinary repair shall mean expenditures or costs or estimated costs of which is equal to or less than $20,000.
And that's, is that the
Paragraph
lease
6.
agreement that you're reading? Because that's the
Nope.
same
That's basically, yeah.
information. That's like verbatim from the lease agreement.
Yes. And it's just, it's in this agreement, so if people have questions, you have 2 documents now that are basically saying the same thing. In paragraph 7, this is different. During the term of this agreement, the district shall be responsible for maintaining the MES playground in good condition and for repairing and upgrading the same, subject to the cost requirements of paragraph 6 above. During this period, the district shall be responsible for acquiring and installing any playground equipment after the initial installation.
That's under 20,000.
Doesn't
Correct.
have that limitation. It doesn't have that limitation.
In the
her
lease
rate.
agreement, if
In the
it's a.
lease.
But that's not in her agreement, does not have that limitation.
So we need to add that. just so you know.
Okay,
would
well, I
have to
think
say
it
in
does
paragraph
because,
seven.
That's assuming we get beyond that.
She put the
because-
requirement of paragraph 6 above.
yes, I put in the
refer to-
requirement of paragraph 6 above, which explains
is
what the
20,000.
capital cost is and what the usual,
So, all right.
so
We're just
it does
getting
say it's
highlights, so,
20,000. You can have
So you want
definitely,
Blackstone to pay for 70% of the upkeep of your playground?
Right now, Millville pays for the playgrounds that are upkept in Blackstone, and we don't have a.
That's not necessarily the case, because no one's paying for the upkeep and repair of JFK playground.
Actually, we spent over $10,000 on the JFK playground in the spring.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay.
we had to,
But
yeah.
you want
It wasn't safe.
Blackstone to pay 70% of this playground?
Well, but that's not what we're here to,
No, I
figure out
understand.
right
Well,
now.
no, what we're here to decide, though, is whether or not we're in agreement with this
well,
agreement to
actually,
construct this playground, which initially, and I apologize, because I wasn't at
we're going to
this.
send this to our attorney and and get that interpretation back, so
I
we can.
understand the interpretation, the legal interpretation. What I'm saying is, from a more principled perspective, whether or not, as a member of this committee, I'm agreeable, and just to let you know.
But we're not voting on it tonight,
Okay,
John?
but-
No,
So
I know
you
we're
can
not
definitely
voting
ask
on
the
it.
questions.
I'm not voting on
But
it.
we're
When
not-
you
Mr.
first
We're not here
Wozniak,
to
Mr.
debate it.
Wozniak,
Yeah.
for any now going forward, any type of maintenance conditions
Yeah.
with the buildings here in Blackstone, the elementary school,
Yeah.
if it's under 20,000, Millville pays their portion of that upkeep,
Yeah.
okay?
I understand that.
Same thing with Blackstone.
$6,000 out of 20.
Okay, well, that's how the costs are
I
split up
understand
between the
that.
2 towns, which they agreed to in the regional district
But
agreement.
that's for a school building housing students
I think
for
a playground
educational
is an
purposes.
extension of a school.
Okay. That's
And
your
what other
turn.
parts, do you want to point out to us, Valerie?
In paragraph 8, because everyone has a real hang-up with the cost of everything, it is our intention that the MES, at the conclusion of the installation of the MES playground, the remaining funds to be no less than $20,000 shall be turned over / donated to the district to be maintained in a gift account or other similar account to be used for future maintenance of the MES playground. If the district declines to accept the funds, then the town shall maintain the funds in a gift account to be used for payment of maintenance, repairs, or upgrading of the MES playground until said funds are exhausted, as if the town had been able to turn over said funds to the district. So we would like to have a playground at our school in Millville. And to help with that, we're willing to get above $200,000. We're willing to get $20,000 more, so that people for a number of years won't have to worry about how it's being maintained, that there will be funds available.
Okay.
During paragraph 9, I put in there, so that way, during school hours, the MES playground shall be restricted to students attending the Millville Elementary School. The MES playground may be utilized by Millville residents during established times as promulgated by the district and posted at the MES playground. So you would need a sign at the playground of when it's acceptable for other people to attend.
And that's going to be set forth by the district?
Yes.
Is it going to be controlled by the district or by the Parks and Recs Commission in Millville?
It will be, once it's built, it'll be controlled by the
Yeah,
district.
Parks and Rec said they didn't want to
Yeah.
be
They
involved.
didn't want to deal with it? No?
And then the costs associated, if I understand right, that the district actually, for any type of, and correct me if I'm wrong, for any type of maintenance issues, even if it's over $20,000, you handle the contracts on that, the town just has to pay for that.
Correct.
So even with the playground, if it's above $20,000.
Something we would be responsible for, but the bill essentially would go to the town.
That is my understanding.
That's how it is for oil tanks, water leaks, things that we're dealing with currently, so.
And please have your attorney check and make sure that's what this agreement says.
Okay.
I just have a clarifying question, because it sounds like Parks and Recs essentially can't handle this, whether it's funds or whatever, but who's going to upkeep the grounds of that playground?
Well-
Because don't they do the grounds over there for baseball games? And so now you're going to be putting in a playground, and I'm just looking for clarity on that. If they say, okay, well, we can't upkeep this or whatever have you, because not the 20,000, but just the upkeep, like mowing the lawn. And if that's a question that I have, because that's upkeep, that's not something that we do. The Parks and Recs in Millville upkeep that area. So that's just I just looking for clarity on that.
I'll work on that, but
Okay.
I think what I'm looking at with the actual playground, the 50 by 100 area, when it's actually fenced in by it'll be fenced in, the surface of that, I don't think will need really a lot of upkeep. We're looking to hopefully put in a poured surface. If that won't work, we're looking at probably what you have out here or a different type of thing. So mowing the lawn, I don't think there's anything to mow.
No, but we still
But-
have, like in Blackstone, we still have an issue, and it's not, I mean, in Blackstone, if you go to that playground right now,
Okay.
there needs to be an upkeep of the sand that's out there and the stone. I mean, we have barely any stone left.
Okay.
And it's always a constant issue of, well, who's gonna pay for the stone? Just like it would be in Millville. Essentially, it's the same question.
Well-
And so we're repairing the playground, and I agree with you 100%. We need a playground in Millville. So I don't want you
yeah.
to think that I don't, agree with you. I absolutely agree with you 100%. But the upkeep is a concern, because then when the upkeep isn't kept up, then you fall into injuries, and then you fall into other categories. So it sounds very similar to Blackstone, what's happening in Blackstone right now, and the way that it's being described sounds
Okay.
very similar to happening
Yep.
in Millville. So I guess my question is, let's
Well-
say you were to have gravel there, or stone, and now you need an upkeep in stone, that would fall on the district.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And which is what we've run into in Blackstone is, okay, well, we need to upkeep this, who's gonna upkeep it? And we're fixing the equipment, but there's more than just equipment. So I guess, I just need a little bit more
I
clarity on
think you're
that.
right. The problem we run into in Blackstone is that playground is, at this point, hazardous because it doesn't meet the necessary requirements of fall protection based upon the heights of the various equipment on the playground. It's not supposed to be gravel.
Right.
It's supposed to be fall protection material, which we don't comply with, which will cost significantly more than $10,000 to comply with, and as a result of northeastern winters, compresses.
So I think what might be beneficial, because it's almost like we are living this right now through Blackstone, and now it needs to be done in Millville, so we're learning through what's going on in Blackstone, so we don't make that mistake in Millville. So I guess that's where the questions are coming from, but I think we need to have some type of, in the agreement, something that, really defines upkeep,
Well,
I guess.
the district will be, hold on.
But who makes that decision? Who makes that decision that needs to happen? I guess that's my question.
Okay, well, that's what you would have to decide. Who at MES do you want to go out there and look at that playground and make that decision? And when you decide that you're going to be responsible for maintaining the playground in good condition. So if you're going to have a janitor or the principal or the superintendent go over there, or even have your insurance agent go over there, or ask the town of Millville to have their insurance agent go over there, inspect the playground. At one point, the town's insurance agent said that he would inspect once a year. Make recommendations, if based on those recommendations to the district, you would then decide how much it's gonna cost, and based on how much it's gonna cost, you would, either the district would pay for it.
Right.
Or the town would have to
Right.
pay the bill.
So, and these are just, please understand, these are clarifying questions, and I understand your point.
I hope that I'm helping.
No, you are helping, but do you remember, maybe Aaron, do you remember that? Remember in Millville, and you might have seen this on TV, but there was a crack in the kitchen, on the
floor.
On the floor.
Yes.
And we had it inspected, and we had the cost was
And
over
appraisal
20,
done.
the cost was what, $24,000. And it went back and forth on who's gonna pay for it, and what ended up happening, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was, well, this should have been handled before it got to that point. So then it was a conversation that had to happen between the town and the school district on who's gonna essentially pay for that, because if it was repaired earlier, it would have cost less than $20,000, and if it was repaired, now that it's repaired, now it's the town's, and it kind of goes the same way. If let's just say we need gravel, well, if we kept the gravel, it wouldn't have cost over 20,000, or where we're at now. Do you see what I'm saying? So I guess
That
that's
sounds more
my,
like a lease problem for anything that we would
anything,
encounter.
right, and could we have legal counsel look at it, but then we really need to look at both, make sure things are on the same, it needs to be the same for Blackstone and Millville. So
It
if we're
does.
gonna come up with some type of, any type of agreement, I think we need to have something it has to be the same. because-
I would also think that you would at least have once a year somebody inspect the playground.
I agree with you.
And then that way, these issues would be, and if that's something that a paragraph that you wanted written in, saying that the playground would be inspected once a year, so that way you would be advised.
Do it, you also confirm with our carrier if there would be any additional addition to our premium. And I do apologize, but in April, when I go to a town meeting and I hear them attacking our school budget, yeah, those people really want to hear about the money, because they pay the tax dollars. So I'll ask the questions I need to ask on behalf of the taxpayers for the town of Blackstone. So, in terms of, and I am not as maybe politically correct in terms of being able to voice my opinion, but I see it as this. First of all, the playground that put at JFK and AF Maloney was done there without these questions being asked and without the hard-driving analysis as to what it was truly going to cost both the town and the district, and be clear as to who's going to be responsible for what. I just recall when you first came here, the district was going to have absolutely no responsibility financially for this playground from now infinitum. Now, I watched and I learned that the Board of Selectmen said, no. We've got an agreement that says the district's on the hook for the first 20,000. So immediately, what I'm hearing is, okay, so now the Board of Selectmen from the town of Millville says, whoa, put on the brakes, because we want Blackstone to contribute its proportionate share to this playground of 70%. And you may be right, but the playground initially installed at JFK F. Maloney didn't come through this public type of a process, which I think is important, so that when we walk onto that floor in April of next year, looking for the percentage increase that we're going to be looking for to fund new books, new technology, maintain the teachers we have, the infrastructure we have for the educational purposes, and we're throwing in an additional playground in the town of Millville, we're able to justify that by saying we had public hearings where people had an opportunity to see us on television and debate the point.
Yeah, but you're making it sound like we're gonna have a line item for a playground.
Well, it's gonna be part of the budget. It's gonna be
Not
part
the
of-
building of the playground, though.
No.
That
No,
needs to be clear.
I'm not talking about the building, but what I am talking about is a playground, and we're forgetting, because you said the 10,000, remember now, we're gonna put a fence around the playground in the JFK F. Maloney area, at least that was initially what was proposed for an additional expenditure. So, and there was questions raised as to whether a fence would be under that $20,000 cap. I don't necessarily, from a perspective, agree with this capital expenditure versus maintenance fee. I think the two are separate and distinct. A capital expenditure is defined in that fashion. But yeah, it's still gonna, you can't ignore the fact that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now, you know, the way this the open-ended nature of this language of improvements too. I mean, if you go back and look at older playgrounds, and I don't mean older 30, 40, 50, older playgrounds 10, even 7 years ago, they don't have the modern advances and requirements that the playgrounds do if you say you're gonna get them installed now. I mean, if you look at the one at JFK, for example, I mean, there's been improvements made with regard to safety mechanisms of playgrounds that weren't in place at the time that was constructed. And could that be considered a necessary improvement? I would think so, and if it was going to be regulatory. And in addition to that, the reason we haven't expended the level of funding for JFK AF Maloney isn't because of a lack of need, because that playground needs some serious assistance with regard to insertion of fall protection, maintenance, and other issues with regard to it. But we haven't been able to because we initially, as Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I first came on this, we weren't even sure who was going to be held responsible for that playground at that time. Nobody wanted to, and I understand there was a great intention in Blackstone to go forward and build. That was all volunteer money, volunteer effort, and the
that's the
best
same
of
method.
And
intentions.
that's what's being
And that's what's being
proposed.
proposed here. I just don't want to get us into the financial quagmire we find ourselves. And 10,000 might not seem like a lot, but it is when you're looking in the scheme of things. What would we ask for last year on our budget? 1.1 in an increase? What did they actually give us? Okay? That was, and then our administrators had to deal with the shortfall of what they asked for versus what they got. And I think you have to look with a heavy degree of scrutiny when you're asking for money for things other than books, infrastructure, administrators, and teachers and the like, and you're gonna spend it, not saying Blackstone, Millville is, but you know what? I mean, Blackstone's playground is not that far from Millville, so
But to be honest with you, John, the same conversation could happen about the soccer fields that we approved to be upgraded and upkept. Because it needs to be maintained, and it's our property, but it's both towns' money. So the same conversation could happen with any upgrade we need to do to any facility. It could be, and this isn't something we're even funding. I definitely understand where you're coming from, but the same conversation could happen with anything we do in this district.
But the soccer fields weren't, the way that agreement was written, when I looked at it,
I'm not talking about Blackstone, I'm talking about when the superintendent asked us to close the high school soccer field and seed it in possible irrigation, that is us, that's not Parks and Rec.
but that field was gonna serve the student body of the athletic teams for BMR and the middle schools and the like. We were gonna do that, and just like if we're gonna build a baseball, we're not looking at upgrading Roosevelt baseball field. We're looking at renovating the high school field for facilitating our varsity and junior varsity teams.
But
So
what is the
what we-
difference from
well,
putting
the
a playground in Millville? Those are still our district students.
Because the building
same
itself,
body.
this school is owned by it was created by the district funding, okay? Millville was created, this building is not leased to the district, okay, as I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay? This building is owned by the district. The alternative of that, the difference is Millville Elementary is owned by Millville. JFK and AF Maloney are owned by the town of Blackstone. That's the difference, because you're investing in their building. And my point is this, when you're mixing apples and oranges, because when you're talking about putting a soccer field on this facility, it makes sense to me from two perspectives. One, the incredible expense that would have been incurred in the high school and an inconvenience to the teams. And two, we have an ideal location for it here. In this particular end, and we need it. There's no doubt we need it to facilitate athletics in the school district. In this case, what you're looking for is a private party who came to the meeting initially and said, we're going to take care of this financially soup to nuts. Then Millville Board of Selectmen said, no, we want the 20 grand. So we're already starting to dispute with
So I
respect
think
to
that's a
the
good
money.
idea that we're going to meet with them. I
Yeah.
have not gotten the invite yet, or the request, probably based on scheduling and holidays, and We don't have another meeting until after the holiday break now, so,
Okay.
and I'm not sure what their schedule is, but I think that's going to have to be our next step. Were there any other parts of this that you definitely wanted us to know that was different, or?
Well, paragraph 10 and 11 basically said, check into your insurance. I just maybe assumed that everybody carried at least $1 million worth of insurance that you would have, you would put on your insurance, the town as an additional insured, and they would do the same for you. So that way, during the different times, everybody has insurance.
I think the attorney can look
Yeah.
at that and
And, yeah.
It has to be written in a way already for Blackstone, so,
It pretty much kind of goes after
Although-
one of these paragraphs in
Right.
the lease, I think it is. Basically, I said the agreement would, that this agreement will expire when the lease of the, this agreement shall expire when the lease of the leased premises terminates. So when the lease of the building terminates, that's when this lease would terminate.
and you'll be present if we have a joint meeting, I would assume?
Yes, I think I should be present.
We definitely appreciate all the time you've put into this, and nobody can say that you have not gone full force and, definitely presented multiple options. So I think, I feel a responsibility to, to match the energy you're putting into it. So I think
I appreciate
we'll
that.
definitely, if I don't hear from the selectmen, I'll reach out to them.
Okay.
Probably after the holiday, just so it doesn't get lost in the mail. But it will be a priority for us in January, for sure.
Can I say one more note? Going off of what Mr. Wozniak has said, if this playground does not go in, I'd really, really like this board to look at what the children at MES have to play with on the playground. And the established playgrounds, as I understand it right now, are the baseball field and the hardtop. And there might be some maintenance issues with both of those areas.
Can I just say something? I'm gonna anyway. I know we're having this conversation a lot about, the buildings that are, house both Blackstone and Millville. But I do have to make a point from a teacher standpoint and from a parent standpoint, is that first of all, we have preschool kids from Blackstone going to Millville. So we do have Blackstone people housed in Millville. The second thing is, those students who don't play, they need to play, and they need something to play on, and they need to learn how to play with other kids, and that's just as important as being in a classroom. And we need to support that because they do come together with Blackstone, and Millville and Blackstone come together at some point, and they need to be able to do those things. And although it may seem minor because they're young, that's the foundation of building good students, and I think we need to support that. So although it may not be a building thing, I do see a need for it, but I do also think that we need to learn from what happened in Blackstone, and I think that's where those clarifying questions are coming from. I appreciate, it's a lot of work, and I appreciate the work that you're doing, but I do want those questions before we put in a playground like that. I think there's a definite need for it, we could go on pros and cons all day long, but I think we need to look at the agreement. I think we need to get on the same page for Blackstone and Millville before we make this decision, and I think we need to sit down jointly. We might even, maybe we should consider Blackstone too.
Could I ask, what is the recess time for the Millville Elementary students? How long do they get per day?
20 minutes, 25
I
minutes?
think it's 25.
Is it 25 or 30?
And there's two
Does that
blocks.
include lunch?
No,
No.
30
They
minutes.
have
a
30
30-minute
minutes for
lunch.
lunch and 25 for recess.
And that's immediately
It
after their
matches
lunch?
Blackstone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The health.
There's just more cycles in Blackstone because there's more
there's more students.
students. So we have two blocks.
And they
recess.
have, you also have gym that happens, or phys ed that happens on
That
the
wouldn't happen
grounds.
on
Once a year,
playground.
once a week.
Oh, push-ups.
Well, I appreciate it if you would just have your attorney look at it, and I think a great group meeting.
I do have
would
one
be
more
perfect.
question.
Sure.
You said $200,000. Have you looked, I'm assuming that's an estimate on something you've priced out.
Yes.
Are there other options if your fundraising is different, or that's the goal?
That's the goal. The equipment, we're hoping when we get to a certain amount, we're gonna look at the equipment we priced out at $80,000. We priced at, and I'm saying 200,000 to be extra. I've kind of got some prices. The development of the land, I estimated at $20,000. The poured in surface was about $50,000 if we go with a poured surface.
50?
50,000.
Is
Hoping,
that the spun, is that the,
it's a rubberized
it's what he
surface.
was speaking of for safety? Perfect.
Right.
Well, it's actually that rubberized, it's almost like mulch, but it's rubber. It's just
Well,
cut
it's a
rubber.
solid surface.
It's a solid surface.
I've seen what you're looking at.
Underneath the heighted equipment, though, you need the fall protection.
That actually
That-
supposedly is better fall protection than
It's
wood
made
chips.
for playgrounds. I know
Yes,
we
it
were-
is designed
We
to.
have it in Franklin.
So
Yep.
80 equipment, 20 land, 50 for the ground, and, okay.
I'm trying to
that's fine.
remember, I mean,
That,
it's
that
10,000
makes me feel
for a
better with the
fence.
breakdown. I was thinking, well, $200,000 for equipment, and
No, and we're hoping when we go for the equipment, we can actually get some that are on sale.
donations or
Yeah.
of equipment and money. Well,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you very
And
much.
just so you know, I have an open mind.
Yes.
I do, really. Just so you know, I was in your chair, I was the chairman of the Bellingham Town Common Committee, and I actually raised objections with the tot lot, which I was like, still having ramifications for, but, you know, I was in favor of that. 'Cause I just have,
We know you just
Those are
like
my
to
questions.
cross your Ts and dot your Is. That's
I
okay.
just, well, no, I'm looking at a school that has a serious, like, well issue, and you're talking about 200,000 for, I don't know, it's just a discussion we need to have.
Dig a new well.
Well, but they say they can't, but exactly, that's my point. If you have money, get
But
water
the
for the
money is
kids.
not coming, the money is going to be fundraisers and donations, and it's going to be.
Well, not fundraisers. We can't have a fundraiser because we're a town committee. It would be donations, asking people to donate, and grant writing.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, moving on. We have a budget presentation from Jim Eggert, our district financial
Sit over there.
consultant. And that's this packet here that everyone, Steve, do you have one?
Yes. Scoop that up, thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for your patience.
Do I get tested?
Good evening.
Hi.
Most of you know me, but those that don't, I've been outside CPA financial consultant since 1988 here at the district. So I've seen quite a, just about everybody, and I've seen most of the buildings being constructed, and I've been through a lot of the processes here, and so I know a little bit of the history. Anyway, I was asked by the superintendent to give a recap of the financial highlights for the year ended June 30th, 2015, because I'm usually pretty instrumental in putting the accounts together at year end. And so we did that, and just to give you a summary of how that went, the conduct of the year-end close went very smoothly. You know, Donna Scunzio left, and she left things in good order, and so it was easy to close without any problems, the accounts. And Ms. Cobb, that joined the district recently, I was in there for the last couple of days, seeing what the accounts look like on an interim basis, and everything's in really good order. She's picking up on everything pretty quickly, and I think that she was a good choice for your business manager. As far as the year-end close goes, the audit hasn't started yet, but I know there was a question on last year's audit relative to cash and the internal control over cash. And I can just say that, you know, because of the small size and staff that you have, it's kind of hard to get a good control over it, but at year end, I always look at the cash accounts to make sure they're reconciled, although I don't audit them. But the auditors, when they come in, I audited many school districts, and as auditors, outside auditors, you always go in and look at cash, and you usually do a cash proof of either the year or at least a test month to make sure there's nothing that looks peculiar or there's a problem. And I know Bob Brown, who is the outside auditor, he's very thorough, and he'll do the same thing when he comes in to do this year-end audit. So I don't see a problem, but I talked with Ms. Cobb, and she and I both agreed. She's in process of revising the reconciliation procedures, which I think are going to be much cleaner than what it used to be, although before it was done okay, not without a problem. But she's got a pretty good handle on how to set that up, and we've talked, and it's probably a pretty good idea initially that once she gets that organized, that she has the treasurer here at the school committee sign off on the reconciliation to make sure they're being done timely, and because you have a treasurer who's on the school committee. You don't have a treasurer that's in-house there. And secondly, we talked about that, and I'm the treasurer at Dover-Sherburne Regional Schools, and I have somebody on staff do the bank reconciliations, and I review them, but I don't actually do the bank reconciliations because I'm cutting checks. So I think here, when staff, after she gets organized, and she can probably have somebody on staff do the reconciliations, and she review them rather than prepare them. So those are my thoughts, and her thoughts on cash. So anyway, the year end went fine, the close of the books. I put in here, just to give you a snapshot on the balance sheet, this is a balance sheet of the general fund, which is your operating fund, and you can see the balance sheet on the second page here as you flip through. We had $3.3 million in cash in the general fund, and you can see the debt, $6.6 million in debt, and I'll get to that as we go on. And then your normal liabilities. The accrued payroll and withholdings look large, but what that is, really, it's just a payable at the end of the year for the teachers at the June 30 year end. It's always around $1 million, and that gets paid out in July and August. And the due to other funds is merely just inter-fund, what fund owes the other fund, and between them all, it comes to zero, obviously, because it's due from. And then in your fund balance, you have $1,088,000 in the fund balance at June 30th, 2015, consisting of $400,000, which is was used to reduce the assessments for 2016. And then you've got a little premium on the bonds that you issued a bond, and that'll go back to the towns and as part of a reduction in the capital assessment in 2017. And then your unreserved E&D, that's what you've got left over, which is not committed to anything in particular. It's the discretion of the school committee, and you have control over the E&D.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why is that in parentheses? To me, that means negative. So-
No, it's on the asset side, it doesn't have debits and credits, so it really means credits. All that is just the liability side of the balance sheet.
Okay.
Well, can you talk about that premium on bonds one more time?
Yeah,
That
you got a
54,000?
premium when you issued the $2.9 million bond,
Okay.
and that has to be paid back to the towns as a reduction in assessments, capital assessments.
Okay. So this will be split roughly 70-30 Blackstone Millville?
Whatever it was, 75,
Yeah.
24,
Yeah,
I can
roughly, yeah.
remember, yeah. Based on the same year in which the bond was issued, which was May 2015.
Okay. So that will be going back to the towns?
Yep.
55,000 roughly?
Right.
Okay.
So that's a snapshot of your balance sheet. And it's a healthy balance sheet. I mean, clearly, if, Standard & Poor's, Moody's looked at it, they would be comfortable looking at that. But I'll get into a little bit more on the fund balance as we flip through this package. On the next page, and stop me at any time if you have a question, but this next page is revolving funds. Revolving funds are like special revenue funds, and the revolving funds is a definition that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts puts on special revenue funds. And these funds are, again, under the auspices of the school committee. And I highlighted those funds which, over the years, haven't had any activity. So the money's still sitting there. And so the school committee can decide what they want to do. They can close these funds, they can move them around, and as an example, use of facilities has a negative balance. So, I mean, a school committee could vote to use some of these monies from these inactive funds to reduce that deficit if they wished. And the only thing, these other funds are all active, and they're all revolving funds, which means that they're usually used for specific purpose, but the school committee, at its discretion, can decide to close one or continue it, or whatever. The only thing that, this high school burner project, I mentioned this to the school, to the superintendent, that's been sitting there for a few years. When you did the burner project over in the high school, there was a balance left in that capital project of $6,524. Now, that money there, by statute, it has to either go back to the towns, it can't be used for another capital project unless, I think, there's special legislation, but it can go back to the town, so that's a decision the school committee has to make with the superintendent as to the disposition on those monies.
I'm sorry, which monies are you talking about?
There's a high school burner project.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that money was left over from the burner project that when they put new, I don't know, furnace or burner or something in the high school, and they didn't expend all the money that they had allocated for it. So it's sitting there, but it can't be spent on anything but a capital project, or it has to be returned to the towns in the ratio of which, the 70-30 or the, whatever it is.
Even though
Roughly
the,
70-30,
even
yeah.
the vote of the, at least the Blackstone with regard to that amount of money, even though the vote said that the school could use it for anything? You didn't quantify it to make it.
I didn't see that, so, I'm just saying,
You don't even know what year that was, do you?
well, I mean, I can go back, I think it was,
2 years ago.
it was about, I'd say 5 years ago. I'm just guessing, but it was a while back.
Now, if you want to use that for another capital project, do we need approval, or they've already approved that amount of money and it's up to us to spend?
No, it was approved for that specific project. So again, I'm not an attorney, but normally you consult with your outside counsel to make sure that, if you're going to move the money, you're doing it in accordance with state statute.
We'd have to see the,
And it's not a lot of money, but it's been sitting there
Any
for quite a
ideas?
while.
my guess is
We have
they.
that deficit right
My
here.
guess is they left it
Bingo,
there for
yeah.
upkeep of the
We
burner,
have a
but
deficit.
it should probably be specified what, in that, whatever motion there was, right?
Yeah, I think that you again, you got to clarify that. I mean, a quick call to, your outside counsel, he'll be able to tell you. I think,
Aaron, I think that the article that approved the
You remember it?
expenditure, yeah, and because, see, I had an issue with it because it was so open-ended, because it didn't require the district to spend it on this particular capital project. The same thing was with respect to the, there was another, the loading dock. The loading dock, they voted a capital, monies to repair or replace the loading dock, remember that? And that was open-ended, so they could use it for whatever they wanted. And that was the concern raised on the floor at the town meeting. So, but I think you need to reference the article to see what restrictions were put on the use of the money, and see if the article that was approved by Millville is consistent with the article approved by Blackstone.
I think that's a great way to
Right?
start,
Yeah.
But I
And
mean,
make that
it's a shame to just leave it sit there, so,
And
and
you
somebody,
feel
I
it was
think, on
about
school.
5 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was about, well, I thought it
not
was,
had any
I thought it, but I'm really bad
Yeah,
with
warriors.
time of, it might be 5, now that I think of it, but I
Yeah,
thought
it
it
was
was,
a
I thought it was
while
like
back.
3. But
It could
I
have
could be
been.
wrong.
You may be right.
I could be wrong, but because you're right, because if we have it, why not apply it to the accounts that we have deficiencies in and zero them out,
Yeah, if it can be used for.
as opposed to just letting it sit there, that doesn't. kind of
I mean, the accounts are managed pretty nicely. The only deficit balance really is this $10,000 sitting there on the use of facilities. So, I mean, I think your accounts are in good shape, clearly. These are all the special revenue funds, and I think somebody on school committee asked, they wanted to see what was in there and what we had. So this is what we have as of June 30. Clearly, some of these that have activity, the balances will change as we go forward into 2016. But those accounts with no activity have just been sitting there for a number of years. And again, I'll move on to the next page if there are no further questions. But this next page, we put together something every quarter just to make sure we're on track with the end of the year and there are no surprises. But this is a final recap of what happened, budget versus actual, for 2015. And you can see that in total, we were, revenue over expenses were $125,000 to the good. And, I mean, I think the governance by the superintendent was instrumental in having these positive operating results. The budget was managed nicely. You can see on the right column the favorable and unfavorable variances. The school choice came in a little bit, net expense came in a little bit under what you budgeted, which is nice. you got that extra transportation money from the Chapter 71, the 45,000, so that's why that was in favorable over budget. And then earned a little bit more interest, and the interest from the capital projects funds, that by law, that has to be, the interest earned on those funds has to come to the general fund at the end, at the close of fiscal year. So that's why that's coming in there, and it wasn't budgeted. And then on your expenses, you were, again, actual was under budget. So if you take the 125,000 and the little reconciliation at the bottom of this page, it shows you started with an undesignated fund balance last year, a fund balance of 876,000. We didn't spend all the encumbrances from last year that were on the funds that were encumbered, so we brought back $180,000 in encumbrances. Miscellaneous revolving fund, that fund has to be closed out to the general fund each year by statute. So the $14,000 there came from the miscellaneous revolving fund into the general fund at June 30. And then last year, there was a transportation give back to the towns of $162,000, which was voted by the school committee and towns. I didn't see the votes on it, but that's what happened. And you got the premium coming back in. So you can see at the bottom, there's your total fund balance of $1,088,000, which obviously agrees with the balance sheet. So anyway, I thought that the results were really good for fiscal year ended 2015.
Could I don't know if this is the right time to ask, because it doesn't really seem to be addressed here. I did have a question about the cash accounts, because when the presentation was made to us, the deficiency with respect to that was that the same person taking in the cash was the same person creating the books reflecting the cash being taken in. And their response was it wasn't really that great of an amount, so it wasn't really anything to be concerned about. You seem to have said that it was a lack of staff or personnel here in order to break that apart, because ideally, obviously, you would want one party bringing the cash in and recording it, and another party reconciling the cash in, so there's an independence between the two parties, so that because if you're taking in the cash and you're also creating the records of taking in the cash, obviously.
Not a lot of cash.
Well, it's $6 million.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of cash coming in per se. Most of the money comes in, is wired in.
Right.
All the money is wired in from the state. The assessments come in. They have more than just one person involved in making the deposits, as do I at Dover Sherburne.
Right.
I have the accounts payable person make the deposits. So here, I know that one of the secretaries, I can't remember, Patty, those checks may get deposited by her. And what I was mentioning before, because of the small staff, it's hard to have internal control, separation of duties when you don't have a big staff. But I think the things that I talked about with Wen will improve that. In the 20 years I've been here, or 25 or 28 years, however long it is, as outside consultant, it's been done this way only because they didn't have the people in place, enough people in place to divide up all the duties, because when you only have 3 or 4 people, it's not possible to have division of duties.
But, now, because when the accounting folks were sitting there, Brown was sitting there, they seemed to indicate, because you just said funds wire transferred in, deposits being made, they were just, as I understand it, talking about cash accounts.
That's what I'm talking about. The
Okay.
cash accounts include all the money that comes in,
Right.
regardless of where it comes from.
Okay.
So I don't think,
And you don't think it's worthwhile to have an addition of personnel to address it? Because you said when you're in Dover Sherborne, you have a different way, but the way they do it here isn't the way you do it in Dover Sherborne, is it?
well, it isn't totally, but I mean,
Right.
it's not a lot different, other than here, you had.
We're smaller, right?
It's smaller.
We're
You had-
smaller, much smaller.
You are smaller, you have
Right.
fewer people. But anyway, here, you had Donna not making all the deposits, but reconciling cash, and had responsibility for maintenance of the accounts. What we're saying with Wen is we're gonna have somebody else reconcile the bank account once she gets organized. And until she gets organized, once she has them reconciled, it'd be nice to just have somebody here who you have a treasurer designated who's on school committee, and that person can just look at it and say, yes, I see it's reconciled, and just sign off on it.
Who's our treasurer?
Jane.
She's going to take that responsibility on?
Well, she has the responsibility as treasurer anyway. I mean, she signs all the checks, even though she doesn't see them, so it's not a bad idea for her to just see them, even though, and until you can get somebody else in the office to do the reconciliation, then Wen could sign off on it.
But that used to happen. The checks used to come here, and they were signed at our meeting. And actually, it was Dr. Davis that told us that shouldn't be happening. We have
Yeah,
a machine
they
that
said
does
there was a
that,
stack
and they
and,
stopped
they
coming.
would
I think we're
sign
talking about
first
two
That was
entire
only till
meeting.
2 years.
We're talking about two different things. I'm talking about check deposits. You're talking about check disbursements.
Yes.
Check disbursements, I mean, I live in Arizona, and I'm the treasurer at Dover Sherburne. So, I mean, I do everything remotely, and my signature, the facsimile signature is in the system. So, you know, you figure you've got the superintendent, you've got the business manager signing the POs. You've got an accounts payable person who's matching up the receivers and the POs and the invoices and cutting the checks. So, and then you have all those assigned put together by the superintendent's office, and you sign the warrants, and all that process, you've got a lot of people involved. So there's no reason to bring the checks over here for signature.
I understand that, but why then, if what you say is in fact the case, why did they mark it up as such a high-end deficiency of the financial process of the
I do
district?
the same thing as an auditor.
On the
because-
audit.
Because, in a way, it's saying, look, even though, because of the size of your organization, you can't effectively get the best internal control, I have a responsibility to say, hey, you know, there is a weakness here just because of the way it's designed.
We don't see, so none of the deposits cross us.
No, deposits wouldn't come here. That's under the governance of the superintendent's office.
But you would see the requisite, the reconciliation and sign off on that.
And, you know, as I said, you've got the auditors going in there at the end of every year. They have to do, I do a cash proof of the whole accounts for the whole year on the operating account when I do an audit. And Bob Brown's very thorough. He's doing that, and I'm, even though I don't audit what they do in the offices, at year end, I look at, to make sure that things were reconciled and make sure that the reconciliations tie into the general books. So, you know, I don't really see a problem. I think, I can see there's room for improvement, and we structure a little bit differently how people, who does what, and I think, you know, it won't be as big an issue with Bob Brown. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, I
It
guess.
is.
That's the answer.
And
It
the
is
best
what
you
it
can do is
and
you just have some oversight and
roll
look
the
at it.
dice.
I have another question, and it might be the same issue where I'm thinking deposits and withdrawals, so I apologize if
No.
I just want to make sure I understand this fourth page, where you showed the prior year encumbrances of 180,000.
Correct,
Our revenue over expense was 125.
right.
Does that estimated total fund balance have anything to do with our revenue over expense line?
Sure, if you have 125,000, you add that to the numbers down the bottom to get the 1,088,000. Because what you're saying is, we generated, in effect, a profit. We didn't generate a
But it's
loss.
not added in there, it's not there. Is it there?
It should be,
Oh, you're taking it from the line up top.
right, at 125 plus
125,
876, 180.
Okay,
So it all adds up
so
to.
it's part of the
Correct.
million, okay.
This next page I put together just because the state allows any school district to keep in E&D up to, and not to exceed 5% of the next year's budget. And I wanted to show this because you've kept about between 2.6 and 3.3 of the what you could keep up to 5%, which isn't too bad. I mean, it's actually okay. The only reason it's important to keep some kind of a balance there, not only for a rainy day, but every year, when you talk to Standard & Poor's or Moody's about, you know, your financial status, they like to see, when you get your bond rating updated, they like to see that the school the school district has a commitment to maintaining a strong balance sheet. So I always tell my clients, my district clients, and even Dover Sherburne, we have a policy, we try not to keep E&D below 3%, other districts 2.5%. But I think what you have here shows that you're committed to, having a strong balance sheet and commitment to the school district. The next page is just a picture. All I wanted to show here was, it just depicts the funding in a pie chart. It's not really significant, but it's just the way it's moving. The Chapter 70 money in 2014 was 49%, and now it's like 47% of the budget. And the assessments have flipped a little bit from 46, and now they're about 49% of the budget. So, and I think that's, and again, I'm not involved in the Chapter 70, funding and all that, but it seems to me that you're getting a little bit less, or your budget's going up a little bit more, and the assessments are going up, and Chapter 70 money's coming down a tad.
How does that compare to another district that you deal with?
Well, it all depends what district you are. I mean, the Chapter 70 money is need-based, and some school districts get a significant amount, others don't.
It's been a steady slide for the last, several years. We lose a point or two every year.
Right, but I just-
A lot of it is population. We're losing population a little bit, so it all kind of, circles on itself.
It was like chicken soup, it couldn't hurt, I just figured I'd show these pictures.
It's real, yeah. But it's been steady for the last, you name it, 8, 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The next page, I just figured I'd give you the debt recap. This just shows you had $6.7 million in debt at the beginning of the year, and you paid off the bands for the roof projects, and then you bonded and banned the roof project, $2.9 million and $900,000 in a band. That's the $3.8 million. So that's new debt, and then you obviously pay with the existing general obligation debt, the State House note, and the middle school bonds. You bring that down in accordance with the amortization schedule. So at the end of the year, you've got a little over $6 million in debt. And you can see that $3,883,000 to the right by project, by the roof project in schools. And finally, I just think I enclosed the E&D notification. Your E&D came in at $714,000 and change, and it's a little bit different than what we show on the balance sheet because there are a few adjustments that we were aware of would happen, but I just attached the E&D calculation that's done by DOR, and you've had Kathy Reed as a field rep for years and years and years, so she knows the district, and you're fortunate to have her. And there was nothing there that was at issue. And finally, this Regional Transportation Reimbursement Fund, RTR as they call it, they established some legislation to allow school districts to put away money for 1 year equal to or less than what you get in Chapter 71 money. Chapter 71 money. You did set up a fund for it on the general ledger, but you never funded any of it. So you can do that if you wish at the end of a school year, but you have to use it in the following year. Some of the school districts do that just because if they get a surprise in the funding on Chapter 71, they don't want to be short. So that's really it.
But that money, that doesn't count as part of our E&D and part of the 5%. That can be.
No, you have to take it
Separate.
out of your E&D.
Okay.
If you wanted to fund something, we funded it at Dover Sherburne. We took money out of E&D and put it in a transportation fund, and we have to use that this year and then make a decision whether we want to fund it again in 2016.
But that takes a 2/3 vote, correct, to move it out of E&D?
Yeah, it only takes vote of school committee, it doesn't take votes of the town.
So if we wanted to fund a $200,000 playground out of our E&D,
I'm not going there.
Hey, listen, I just
That's
told
how we
Steve,
do it.
if I
Thank
had
you.
the money at Dover Sherborne, I'd burn ours, all right?
I know.
Okay?
heat the buildings with it.
Well, finally, I just, I appreciate, the opportunity to come here and talk with you. And I think, I just would make a final comment that I think the staff that you have there works well together. I was in there for the last couple of days, and your new business manager, she's really getting up to snuff pretty quickly. And I think that, you'll be in good shape very soon. You are in good shape now, but it'll continue to be smooth as it has been in the past.
We like to hear that.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your trip back to Arizona.
I will. I'm flying out tomorrow.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, too.
All right, moving on, we have a report of the superintendent who was not able to be with us this evening. He had to have emergency surgery this morning, so he's recuperating, and we wish him well. But we have the pleasure of Dr. Thompson, and he has a list.
I have the list, yes. So first on the list is a discussion of MCAS or Park. We need to make a decision and let the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education know by December 18th whether we will be sticking with MCAS or using Park next year. Most people are aware that the board voted on the 17th of November to use the commissioner is now calling it Massachusetts Next Generation Assessment. He's moved away from MCAS 2.0, but we need to, that will be happening in the spring of 17. So we have a choice to make in the spring of 16. We either stay with MCAS, which is going to be phased out, or use Park next year. In your packet, in your weekly update, you did see notes from me, a chart that I put together of pros and cons of MCAS versus Park, and in your packet, I don't know whether that came yesterday or today, but also is a copy of the Commissioner of Education's letter and his recommendation and observations. The new generation of MCAS testing is going to be very much based on Park. No one has come out and said how much, but if you look at the letter in the second paragraph, it says the first line, the board's November 17 vote also embraced Park as a major component of the Massachusetts Next Generation Assessment. We are basically deciding what kind of testing we will be using between grades 3 and 8. The high school will still be using MCAS as a graduation determination until 2019. So, and he does highlight a lot of the things that I put into the pros and cons piece on the back. And Madam Chair, I don't know if you want me to lead a discussion or to go through what it says on the, I don't want to insult people's intelligence by reading a chart to them. So I'm willing and able to, both the superintendent and I agree that it would be beneficial to try the Park test out, simply because what is currently there for MCAS is not going to be what the future is going to be. We need to look at how our students will be doing on these new generation tests. We will get data for 2 years looking at that, being held harmless, which means we're not going to have accountability. We still will get student results, but it will tell us more about how our students will do in a new testing environment.
Will the parents get those results?
I believe so, yes. Yeah.
Have you met with the administrators just on their feelings on this?
We have not. We are scheduled to meet Tuesday on that.
What was that question?
I was wondering what
the administrators did.
Right, because it's their building. So,
Right.
and I'm sorry if I'm making you repeat yourself. You just said no matter what, the high school's staying with them.
Yeah, no matter what,
Yeah, they have
this
to.
is only
That's a
three.
graduation-
That's a
this is only
graduation
3 through
requirement,
8.
yeah.
3 through 8.
3 through 8, and so 2019 is the first year where those sophomores, so the class of 22 will have to take the new tests and as competency determination. But we have some time before that. But the main thing is that we're going to get, these tests are different. They're asking for higher order thinking, applying what they're supposed to know. The old MCAS did not do a very good job of that. I would like to, in a year, be piloting some online stuff. I did ask about being able to do that this year, because then we get some experience with the whole, and we could probably do one grade per building, but the department has told us we really need to choose a building. We can't just do, 7th grade here and 4th grade at one of the other buildings. So we're gonna have to wait a little bit on that. But the main thing is actually getting kids practicing the test. So what happens is before, the accountability piece comes in there, we're gonna have 2 years worth of them trying these newer generation tests, so we get some information on how to make sure they're being successful with it.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Because I don't really have a lot of familiarity with this, but when you require a certain scoring on MCAS, don't you become then eligible for like scholarship money to go to state schools?
Yeah,
Abigail Adams.
Abigail Adams,
Abigail
free
Adams.
ride.
Right.
And there's also another one that is a discounted rate at state
Yeah,
schools.
how would that be impacted by, how would that impact the children that we use as the test subjects
It
with these?
wouldn't.
It wouldn't.
It would only be 10th grade and
Yeah,
they're
that's-
keeping MCAS at that
yeah.
grade.
All right.
And that's still gonna be MCAS, and they're gonna stick with the old test until, kind of all the bugs and people are used to it and have made the adjustment.
A couple of things. I learned the hard way this year. The Abigail Adams is not a free ride to college. It is
Room and
the very slim tuition portion of the
Right.
total
Right.
cost to attend a state school, which is, I think it's about $1,500 a year
Yeah.
right
Right.
now, is what you, but it's, if you,
Something's better than
if
nothing.
there's $1,500 on the ground, you'd
Very
pick it up,
small.
no doubt, but, and I think it's a good idea. I've been on the, for the state, I've been working on the MCAS test development committee for the last many years. And we've been slowly changing our questions over to our more Common Core standards. But I agree. I think it's time to sort of move forward with the park. It definitely is. And I would assume at this point, like you said, it'll probably be a paper version of this.
Yeah, it will be a paper version.
Yeah.
The online versions will have, and one of the problems with the MCAS right now is that there's a ceiling. And if you look at growth scores and you see your higher performing kids and they don't show much growth, it's because it cannot go above what the standards are for that grade level. But these new tests, once we get to
Exactly.
online, the commissioner's come out saying that he wants the entire state to be online by 2019. And those tests, what they seem like now, will be adaptive. So as you take the test and as you answer questions, if you're doing well, you will get harder and harder questions. If you stay at a certain level, you get more questions to probe your depth and breadth in that area as well. So, we are gonna get more information. These tests, the park is timed. The accommodations that are allowed for special ed students are somewhat different. So so this gives us more time to adjust our instruction, our curriculum, to make sure we're preparing kids for these new assessments.
But actually, a similar thing, we heard this week that they're backing off the grade 4 long composition and MCAS this year. That's a thing of the past, so they'll.
They have more, instead of having one long comp, they're gonna have more shorter writing
Yeah, exactly,
prompts. Yeah.
exactly. But you're not gonna have the big essay.
Right.
To
not
mimic
in
what
the
the
past.
park is doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Great. And a similar question, obviously, the park test will be online at some point. Way down the road. Do we have any other just common assessments during the year that the kids take using a computer rather than paper and pencil?
Yeah, and that is an important piece. We are actually piloting STARS assessment at the middle school right now, and we are looking at what assessments we're doing, and they're doing a pretty good job with it here, but they give benchmarks. The nice thing about these sort of online computer-based assessments is that it really tells where kids, it's, on the ground, real-time assessments, and we can do interventions on those skills to make sure kids are on track.
And I can also speak for the Envisions program, that they have the digital enhancement assessment, and that can be done online, but we have to get up to par with our online stuff in order to push that. But it mimics Park.
Yep.
The enhancement
Right.
one, the
Right.
questions are very similar to Park.
Right, and I can tell you, and it is a very important piece. My previous school piloted Park, and we did computers, and at my school, we used Galileo, which is much like STARS, that ongoing computer-based assessment. My 8th graders breezed right through it. The other middle school, although they had Galileo, did not use it the way we did, they had trouble with it. The kids had trouble doing the assessment, and then in third grade, in the other part of the district, they did not have it. Those kids were, it was a total disaster. So it is an important piece we need to look at going forward, is making sure we're using technology and assessments. And if you want kids to perform well on assessment, then they should be doing similar tasks in and around the classroom.
Exactly. So I'm saying, so to sum it up then, is we're teaching this way. We're getting our kids there by what we're doing in class. They
Right.
will be ready for
Right.
both the content and the format of the test by
Right.
what we're doing.
Right.
So,
And one of the big things, you know, with the Envision Math program and the writing and the thinking and the explaining, that's an integral part of the program, and that's what we're getting them ready for.
excellent.
So that, I was gonna, I'll piggyback off of that, because one of my questions was, so it's December, are we already teaching towards the MCAS, or are they gonna be ready for such
Well,
a change?
I mean, the standards have not changed since the 2011 standards are the 2011 standards, so that has not changed. What is changing is what we're asking them to perform in the tests. So you're actually capturing more of what the standards are asking them to do with these new generation of tests. So, and we have asked that in classes at times, but, you know, again, I don't know as if we get as deep of, I mean, the nice thing about, you know, I tell people, the nice thing about this testing data is it does give us very good data. The one problem is that it's yet last year's class that you're looking at when you get the data, which is why the ongoing assessments, STARS, Galileo, map testing, those are important tools that give us real-time information, so.
How is this gonna affect our school ratings? Since there's nothing to compare it to a
Right.
previous year, where will that bring our levels?
We will not get a level for the next 2 years.
Is that okay?
Yes, that is okay.
That's generally a good thing.
Yeah.
Will we stay status quo?
Well, yeah, well, I mean,
Or
right, you are what you are, but we're gonna be bringing in a lot of different, you know, we've got, you know, it gives us time to adjust. You know, the accountability is accountability. It'll be interesting to see whether, because, you know, with the new ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, the new version of, yeah, we have to have a name for it.
I didn't know the name.
The, you know, with the new version or the revised No Child Left Behind, that has, those decisions have been flipped back to the state. And I don't know how much Massachusetts will change with what that accountability is, but no matter what, I mean, we would get an accountability for next year, but then we wouldn't get it for the year after. So, you know, I mean, we're gonna lose we have to start over at some point, so we're starting over a year early.
And so when is this for, this is for the springtime?
This is for this spring.
So we're rolling out the math program and this together as kind of like a package, right?
That math is teaching towards the park.
Right, no, right. I
But
mean-
they're also, but we need to realize that, I mean, the kids are learning this, the teachers are learning this. And anytime you implement a new program, you
Absolutely.
definitely see a dip.
Yeah. But this would
so-
be the opportunity to
Right.
see that
This would be the
dip.
time to do it because it'll be
Right.
So
held
there's not a
harmless.
dip and a dip, it's just, there's the dip, there's where we start.
There's a dip, but it's still gonna give us information on how our students are doing with this kind of test, and where do we need to improve
Right.
our instruction and our curriculum to make sure that they're well-versed to.
And so most of this is gonna be paper, right?
It will be all paper.
Except for those and that's if the.
Unless the answer from the department changes that I asked last week was, you know, honestly, I would like to do a computer-based test in each building. There's not enough machines to do an entire building, to have them all walk through a computer lab. I could probably do a grade easily. I would have a hard time doing the entire middle school, which is where I probably would do it, because they've already done some online testing. So unless they change that, we're looking at pencil and paper.
So my concern, is there any concern for the eighth graders? Because eighth grade, we're gonna give them Park. 2 years from now, they're gonna take the MCAS.
It's-
For 10th grade.
But the Common Core hasn't changed.
Right, but
what
the
expectation
Common
is.
Core hasn't changed, it's just the method of assessment will remain the same. So you're actually theoretically gonna give them a more vigorous assessment in eighth grade. We'll use that information as they go forward, so they should be more than prepared for 10th grade. I'm not I mean, if you look at our 10th grade MCAS scores in this district, I'm not worried about
It's
those.
not a problem. And,
Yeah.
and honestly, the scores between leading up to 10th grade, that's trying to identify the kids who need the extra help. And that,
Right.
there won't be a kid who really will pop up at 10th grade that we don't know about.
Right.
We've been watching those kids for a while.
Right.
But we can see them coming.
Just food for thought in our budget moving forward, though. If our hope is to be moving in this electronic age, you know, where are we with teaching children electronics? Like, the actual, because I know giving the park, because I've given it already. I know there is a time frame. There is, on the Common Core, they have to type so many words in 5th grade, 2 pages in so many minutes. I mean, I know we're not there. So that's my question in terms
Right.
of budgetary, you know. I don't need my child coming home with colored paper saying, this is a mouse. We're not there anymore. So
Right.
in our budget,
Right.
are we preparing for the technology part? Or are we going to be essentially having that for the teachers to do? Because I think that's a big
Right.
big conversation, but I think that's something that needs to start from real, you know,
Right.
kindergarten and work itself up, because we need to teach that part of it. Because that's a huge part that, I can honestly say, giving it, that was a huge part being missed.
Right, and, yes, and and the research will tell you the best way to teach kids how to use technology is to
keep
use it in
using
the
it.
regular classroom. So that is in there. I don't know if I should reveal the budget wish list, but
No, but I think-
but I have in there, bringing that assessment system or a similar assessment system to what we're piloting here at the middle school, down through and up through possibly the high school. So that will bring that piece in there. But, you know, having kids walk into a special of technology is not the same as having them working with their English assignment and typing it out on a Chromebook or something along that line. So
Right, but
Right.
they have to learn how to type.
They do,
Like,
yes.
I mean, we're teachers we're not
Right.
typing teachers. You know, we used to have typing teachers, but,
Right.
you know, I can honestly say that holds children up.
Oh, it does.
And
Especially in 3rd grade,
being a
because-
teacher, I'm not gonna say,
have a lack
okay,
of
it's
keyboarding
8:30,
skills,
we're
you're
going to do
absolutely right.
AAA. I mean,
Absolutely right.
we have other things
gonna
that,
take
so I just think it needs to
Yep.
be it needs to be a conversation, a district conversation. If we're going to be giving 5-year-olds computer-based testing, we can't expect our teachers to be teaching
Right.
typing.
And I don't,
We-
right, and I don't think that we will see an online testing piece below 3rd grade.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's coming.
honestly, right, but, well, I don't know if it'll, right, but it probably will not be typing.
But the expectation, if we're rolling out an Envision program, and that Envision program has assessments, and our vision is to enroll this program out with integrity and make sure that they have to start practicing at a young age.
Yep.
So we can't say they're going into 3rd grade and say, okay, now we're going to, it has to be rolled out,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
I think
I
what
do.
you're saying
I just
is-
know I just know
Yes.
as a teaching standpoint, that's difficult to fit
Yep.
in time to
Right.
say, okay, we're gonna do typing today. It
Right.
just
I
doesn't
think
work.
our
But I also-
technology special needs to change.
Well,
Just
I think
in-
that, I would like to
Right.
see something in our budget that aids in, and however it happens is fine, but we need to have something in place for this to take place. So we need
Right.
to be proactive in the education of technology.
Yes.
No doubt.
I agree. But, you know, I also think that these tests will change over time. And part of the problem is that these kids that are growing up, they don't use keyboards.
That's what I'm
They
saying.
don't use keyboards.
It's more
Uh,
touchscreen
it's all-
tapping.
It's all touch, it's talk to the screen, it's not that traditional typing bit. So will the testing mechanism change as time goes on? I mean, we'll see. But yes, I agree with you, and it needs to be integrated into what they're doing in the classroom, and those skills need to be taught, and,
You're talking about additional expenditure of funds for
yeah, and, you know,
integration of that into the system.
and the state is talking about going all digital, all online, and I'm hoping that that is gonna be followed up with.
Hopefully that comes with money
I
attached.
honestly think our towns need to know that we are behind in the technology field. I mean, we are
No.
really behind. We don't even have, that's right, and that's why we need to,
Put a playground in?
We're not paying for the playground,
we're not.
I
paying-
just thought I'd throw
We're
that
not
in there.
paying for the playground.
unless you want to make that motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
But
all right,
we also have made tremendous
We have,
strides
and
in
hopefully
the
by the
last
end of the
year.
year, our infrastructure will be
Yeah.
where
And-
it needs to be to move forward, but
Right.
I.
It will be, we are starting, in 2 weeks.
Can I ask you a question, because I'm just not sure the answer is, just to follow up on that. Do we integrate in the use in the classrooms, like iPads and whatnot?
We need
for
to have
students?
the iPads.
We need to have
and the
more of them
Chromebooks.
to do it, but yes, they do.
And we need some PD for
What
the teachers.
grade,
We need-
what grade do we start that at?
I can tell you my son's second grade, and
Mm-hmm.
the BPO, the parents' organization, put together a cart of 25, I could say,
Chromebooks, yep.
that's going throughout the entire complex.
Right.
So when they get the cart, it's
Oh, when they get the
integrated.
cart, they
When
get
they
to
get the,
use it.
when they sign out the card, it gets integrated. The computers are really just, I mean, they're,
Right. And the reality is, I mean, the reality is, you know, the day of walking to the computer lab and doing
It's done.
doing your assignment is
Done.
gone. What needs to happen is that those Chromebooks or those laptops or iPads you know, in kindergarten and first grade need to be in the classroom, and when they're appropriate, they're used, and when they're not appropriate, they're sitting, you know,
do you have
you
them
know,
in Northbridge?
Yeah, we do.
on the shelf.
And we have a couple of those charging carts, we have iPads, we have, we have laptops, we don't have Chromebooks.
Right.
But you're right, that,
I have my own
we have a couple floors, we have one on each floor, and the
Right.
teachers sign
But
them
we have-
out, and
but
they're
you have to
constantly in
keep in mind,
use.
we have one.
They're constantly in use.
We have one.
Yeah.
But you have one, and you have one card of iPads.
Of first generation iPads.
Right,
So,
Yep,
right.
for 600 kids.
In Millville,
that's pretty much what we have, yeah.
But part of that is infrastructure.
Right,
I
absolutely.
mean, there are people in the complex, and this, again, you have to walk, you have to crawl before you
Yeah,
walk.
yeah,
But there are
definitely.
people who are using the Chromebooks, but they can't use it in the room because there's no
'Cause there's no
access, so they have to
infrastructure.
go to another room to use the Chromebook.
are there
So,
any Chromebooks in Millville?
not yet, no.
Check once.
But they won't run in Millville.
Right.
There's
But by
this-
the end of
right.
the year, I think we're gonna be in a good place with the
By
infrastructure.
the end of the year, the infrastructure will be there
And
In
so our,
Millville and in Blackstone?
yeah,
Yep.
all
Yep.
out.
throughout the district, so. in the
So
next step
hopefully,
is to-
in the budget, we really need to support that
Yep.
push for those that,
All right, so to wrap all this up, do you need a motion to go one way or the other?
Yep.
Okay.
Right now?
Well,
Because they have to give it
we
to
don't have another meeting between now and the 18th.
Can we change our mind after we do it?
no.
Like, they want the decision by December 18th. Why?
Why? Because they have to arrange
Budget.
by
Yes,
district
do the park,
which
right? Of
testing
course,
company
yeah.
you're gonna be talking to.
Seems, I've been following.
So I make a
this.
motion to move
And
our
the first
district.
round of the other advantage of park is it actually is later. It's actually
Oh, when
later.
is it?
It's,
a big
April,
interest.
May.
Park.
So the
So
March,
our whole schedule will change for the spring.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is there would not be March testing
Yeah,
for
it's
ELA.
usually the month before school.
Yep.
Did you
Right.
make a motion?
When is it?
No, I was interrupted.
Go for it.
Maybe it
All
wasn't
right.
on the agenda.
All right, it's all you.
It's on the agenda. I make a motion to move our district to the park testing.
Second.
Motion made by Wendy, second by John. Any other discussion? Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? It was unanimous.
Sweet.
Okay, thank you so
Okay.
much.
You're
And you
welcome.
have a
Thank
few
you.
more items here.
Yeah, a few more items. You'll see in your packet a revision of the budget timeline. And just to give you a quick update, we're at the third one, prioritize needs, cost savings, and efficiencies. Most everybody, I think I might have been the last to the second to last, to meet with Wen and get our preliminary budgets to her. So she will be starting to collaborate and bring those all together. And I feel very strongly that that will be the date of the 31st. That draft budget will be on target in the
So
timeline.
everyone has met with when to present their,
Right, their budget
wish
needs,
lists.
their
as a
requests,
wish
yes.
list? How was
Yeah,
it
it's the
presented?
it's the first blush of the budget, and then during that time frame, that will be revised with the leadership team and Superintendent Himmelberger.
Now, can you just talk in general, like, what are your sort of marching orders for them putting the budget together? Is like level service, level dollars, 5% up, 5% down? What were you thinking?
I think that, well,
Have a focus?
have a focus. I think it basically was, like it was last year, what are the real needs?
Okay.
So this first time by, and then I believe before you get it, we'll be prioritizing what those are.
Okay.
So it's very early in the process at this point.
So we see at the end of January? Or do we get a draft, nothing before that, right?
Well, the draft budget is completed by the 31st. And then there'll be a discussion and revising through the month of January and a presentation of that draft. So basically, our first blush, and then we take the month of January to prioritize and whittle it down.
I think it comes across to us before that, right? Or maybe he's gonna give it to us later.
Yeah,
It's like a big window there, 1/4 to 1/27,
yep.
so. I guess that makes sense.
Can you just talk in general, what is Wen's involvement gonna be in this whole thing?
She's the person putting it all together.
That's what I wanted to hear, good.
Yeah, that is
Good.
definitely one of the strengths that she brings to the
Good.
district,
Good,
is
good, good.
is that she was the budget analyst for Worcester Public Schools. So that is a strength we did not have last year. Well, we did
Great.
have it, but it was Alan doing that, plus the superintendent job, so. But that is a strength, and she's already, just sitting with her and going through my line items, and she's, well, this should be over here, and this should be over there, and she's got a very good handle on that. So I learned a little something yesterday, so it's.
Good to hear.
Excellent.
Okay, and then next, we have the physical restraint policy. Have we read this yet?
Well, it was presented to us.
It was
from
presented?
Miranda,
Okay.
But, actually, it was only Steve, Wendy, Georgette, and I that were here for it.
Okay.
Mhm.
And it we voted on?
What?
Did we?
But this is just enacting of a law. so-
Right, basically, prior to, we have to have this, and I guess we do need to vote on it, because we have to have this in place before January 1st, because the regulations have changed on physical restraint, so our policy needs to reflect the state regulations. So, and this was presented by Ms.
Yeah, that's,
Braverman.
and everything in red was.
Everything in red is the new parts of the restraint policy.
So you need a motion to
To approve.
approve the physical restraint of students policy that was presented to us at our last meeting, November 12th, by Ms. Braverman.
Yep.
So I'm looking for a motion. If there's any discussion, we can do
I'd
it.
like to make that motion to approve the new, restraint policy.
Physical restraint of
Physical restraint
students
policy, sorry.
So
Got it.
motion made by Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Wendy. And any discussion, questions?
Just that staff will be trained on the new
Yeah,
changes.
they already have
They
that.
already-
They already have been trained. Yep.
Perfect.
Oh,
There's still more.
It was, yeah. Any other questions? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So a vote to approve is unanimous. Any other topics for us?
Nope, not from the,
Okay.
not when the
Moving on. Do you wanna
superintendent hat, I'll
change seats?
I'll change seats,
Moving
move
on
over
to the
one.
report of assistant
Yeah,
superintendent.
just real quick, we have arranged for our, I think I put it in my update, but the curriculum mapping, the training on that is gonna happen the Tuesday we come back from winter break. And then the hope is from there, starting with our professional days, and we're gonna need to arrange some time during the day for our elementary folks, because they're doing the literacy training in January. But we will start with that again, or re-enter the mapping that we started last year, and our hope is to have that completed by May. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And moving on to the only public forum, since we tabled the last one. I should have asked when we had a room full. but-
Opportunity.
And school committee forum. Wendy?
Well, on the update, I was glad to see that the K-8s were an additional hour. It's nice to see that we're giving the kindergartners support that they need to move forward. And I'd also like to wish everybody that celebrates Happy Hanukkah, and also have a wonderful holiday, because this is the last time that we will
It's true.
Be here before the holiday.
Just good luck to the drama club this weekend with their Oliver Twist production. That's it.
I'm the other end from you. I just came from the financial aid presentation at the high school for the juniors and seniors. That was very informative. It was well done. So there was probably 60, 70 people there, which is pretty good. I was involved. It was run by a financial aid person from WPI. He was in charge of it with Goulet and what's the other one? High school female. Can't think of her name.
I can picture her.
So can I. She was right behind me. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was very good, very well attended. It was a good start. So opposite end from kindergarten.
One end to the other.
Yeah.
Bridget?
Just want to thank the elementary students for singing to us tonight,
Thanks.
and happy holidays.
I'll thank the parents of the elementary students for bringing them out tonight. That was a nice crowd. I mean, we could have potentially had about 100 kids here. I didn't count, but it was a lot. So thank you for that, and the efforts of the music teachers to get them ready for today. And just to echo everyone else, definitely enjoy the holiday break. I think everyone is looking forward just to the slowing down, if we slow down for the 2 weeks. So moving on, upcoming meetings. The next meeting for us is Thursday, January 14th, but we do have some union negotiations scheduled. We, at the last meeting, I did ask people to consider being on a budget subcommittee, and I have not received any volunteers, so I will, I'll speak to people individually. And you're not in trouble, but we do need to put that together just to get into the depth of this agenda that was just handed to us. The regional agreement, we should probably mention, we are actually about
right.
to, with
That's right.
Jesse, work on a movie, video clips of some important highlights of all the work that's gone in for the last 2 years. And we definitely hope, we're about 30 days behind, but we definitely hope that maybe along with our budget presentations, we're able to share the works of that and get it onto the warrant for May. Which would change a lot of things, so. Any agenda items for the next meeting, which is not until January 14th, so it is about a month. Definitely forward them on to me. And I think I'm looking for a motion to move into executive session for matters of union negotiations and union matters, personnel issues, not to return to open session. We will adjourn from the executive session, and I need a roll call. Steve?
Yes.
Or do I need a motion first?
Exit, yes, I need it.
Yeah.
Okay, a motion to go into executive session, not to return to open session.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Steve, second by Tara, and a roll call now, Steve.
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Erin, yes? Yes. Yes.